Welcome to Funders and Founders. This is our startup school program by popular request. A lot of you guys are really excited. You've come up with great ideas at the previous events, and now it's time to put them to work. No more excuses. I am so excited and delighted to introduce Mark Rose. He is going to talk to us about exit strategies. So Mark actually built, he was a co-founder at a startup called Spare Change, and he bootstrapped it from 0 to 30 million people who are talking. 30 million. From 0 to 30 million. And then he sold it. And he's going to tell us the story about how he made that decision, what that involved, and what he's doing today.
So let me just start with kind of how we started the company and how it got started, and I'll kind of go through the evolution of the companies and the different M&A experiences that go through with that, because they're actually very different at very different stages, and you need different people and different skill sets and so forth, and I'll kind of walk through that. So Spare Change. So actually Spare Change started when, do you guys remember when Facebook opened up their APIs? I remember it like in March of '07. I literally remember the day they opened up their APIs. I was so excited. I'm like, wow, this is going to be really, really big. And I emailed a bunch of my friends and I said, hey, this is going to be really big. A lot of people thought, that's, well, big deal. Some college sites opening up an API. What difference does that make? So a number of us started building games on Facebook and building applications. And so I had built an early application on Facebook called Score Me, which was a stupid application. It's kind of like Hot or Not, where you kind of like it shows a picture of your friend and it's like, how smart is he? He's really smart or dumb as a rock. Or you see some girl and it's like, how is she musically inclined? Like, no, she can't hear a tune, and things like that. So it was just kind of a fun little app. And it grew really, really fast. It grew to about 1 million users or so within the course of a couple of months. And it's getting like, I don't know, maybe 500,000 page views a day. And at that time, I was pretty excited about it because it was just myself and I had another friend that I was kind of doing it with as well. I was pretty excited because it's pretty good to have, just kind of a garage site, get a bunch of users on it. And at that time, the prevailing method of monetization was display-based advertising. And so everyone was like, build an app, put ads on your site, and money will flow. And so, we had ads on the site, but at the end of the day, with all those users and all those page views and things like that, the, ad revenue that it would generate on a monthly basis was like $2,000 or $3,000, which was, not very interesting at all, right? It's just, wow, big deal, $2,000 or $3,000. I mean, it's just a lot of effort for a few $1,000s. And so then, and at the time, I happened to be working at PayPal, and I thought, hey, I wonder if micropayments would work on Facebook. And so I talked to a bunch of friends of mine, and this was '07. This was just after a number of micro companies had failed spectacularly, like raised tens of $millions and all lost out. And so all my friends told me, of course, that's the worst idea in the world, Mark. And I'm like, okay, I'll take that. And we went out and talked to app developers, people who are building apps, and they're like, no one's going to pay money for my stupid app, right? No one's going to pay money for these games. Facebook is for free. And so that was kind of the market feedback we got. But we did it anyways. We just had we just had a feeling that that there's something here. It's an idea, and maybe we can uncork some value. And so we built the app. Didn't take us long. Took us a few months to build the app.
I have a question. Yeah. Was it just your intuition that it was going to work? Like you just went against this advice? Why?
Yes. So it was our intuition that it would work, because we knew that at the time, display-based advertising was not working at all. And so it was our economic theory that people would pay for this as the value increased, as the value of games increased. So that was our hypothesis. So we took a bet on the market, and we were actually early, but as it turns out, not that early, which was great. Which is another powerful lesson in startups and M&A and exits. Timing is everything. The timing was a little bit early, but to tell you the truth, the timing actually couldn't have been better. Right? There are companies who were extremely well funded that failed 8 months before we launched. Right? They failed completely. Like, let's wrap it up, put it away, everyone, you're fired, go home, thanks for playing. And so, they had a similar idea, but the market catalyst wasn't there yet. So timing is a really, really important element. And it's, does anyone here surf? Okay, good. Oh, wow, all right. So we've got some surfers. So in some ways, it's kind of like catching a wave, right? Some days you can go out there and it's as flat as a board, and other days you go out there and the waves are great. But the point is that timing is really, really important in catching a wave. You can't always predict it, and it's very hard to do. I almost want to say there's almost an element of luck in it too, but that would diminish of a lot of spirits and things. But there it is, right? There are the numbers. So we started this app, and it was really interesting. So we launched it, again, a little bit early, so we launched it. Yawn, right? There's just crickets, right? Just nothing happening. And because we'd go out to apps and we're like, hey, add micropayments. They're like, yeah, whatever. I mean, we literally have emails to Mark Pincus saying, hey, we think you should sell poker chips on Zynga, before Texas Hold'em Poker was an important app. Like, no, it's not really important. So it was really early. But then we had one app that says, I think this will work. And I have to confess, I thought it was the stupidest idea ever. I still do, actually. It was this, little scratch and win kind of speculative, not really a lottery app, but I don't know. It was just so dumb. I have a hard time even explaining it. But some guy in Canada, and no offense to the Canadians. So he's like, I want to launch this. I'm like, okay. And he did the integration completely wrong, and it just looked awful, and it just made me wince. And the first day he went live, it took $1,000 in payments. And we're like, oh shit, that's great. And then sure enough, over time we started getting, hey, this guy's making money, he's making money, and we started growing apps, and other apps started taking a look at this, and the ecosystem around, hey, you can actually charge users for using a game application and they will pay, started to grow. And so, we grew this app, we grew the team. Like I said, we were very early, right? So we're completely bootstrapped. We just kind of, self-funded it, not with any money, because when it's software, and by the way, the scope of everything I have to say is really within the scope of software development. I don't know much about startups in other areas, so I think it applies to software development. I'm not sure about other areas. So, so we didn't have any funding, but we didn't really take any money either, right? We've got myself and 2 other co-founders, and we're just sitting and coding, and it's not really any drain of money, other than our time and equity, and my wife going, I hope this works out, which is actually my first really important lesson. It is much, much better to do a startup when you're young than when you're old. A lot of people think that, well, as I get more financially secure, I can do a startup. The reality is that's so far from the truth, because as you get older, well, you got the mortgage, you got the kids got to go to school, you got all these things, you got the dog. So, if I had to do my life over again, I would have done startups when I was like 20. But instead I started when I was in my late 30s. So we just kind of bootstrapped this, and as soon as we got some traction, we had a number of friends who were in the VCs and angels, and we're like, should we raise money? And we went out and talked to a number of them, and they were really, when we showed them some numbers and things like that, and they were really very dismissive of the idea also. We're like, I don't think it'll work. Call us in 6 months, which is VC language for we're not buying it. And that's okay, actually, because the act of raising money, and this was probably talked about earlier today, takes a tremendous amount of effort. It takes a tremendous amount of effort. So our focus was just on let's just grow the business and see where this goes. And so we just put our heads down and we grew the business and we grew the business and we grew the business. And actually within about 4 months, and we were very fortunate, we were able to grow the business so that we're actually able to pay ourselves and have an office, a small one. It was $500 a month office. The 3 of us sitting in this like 10 by 10 square area, but it was an office, which is another really important lesson in startups, and especially for exit strategies. Be really lean. Be frugal.